At the Nixon Library in Southern California, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo presents the Trump administration's hardline stance on China.
The old paradigm of blind engagement with China simply won't get it done. We must not continue it, and we must not return to it. As President Trump has made very clear, we need a strategy that protects the American economy and indeed our way of life. The free world must triumph over this new tyranny.
Pompeo says the old way of engaging with China resulted in self-censorship among U.S. businesses and in Hollywood, while China continues with repression on the Chinese mainland and Hong Kong. He says China is seeking global dominance and has become increasingly authoritarian at home and hostile to freedom abroad. Pompeo's speech comes the same week the U.S. ordered the Chinese consulate in Houston to close within 72 hours, calling it a hub of spying and intellectual property theft.
This is entirely malicious slander. This demolishes the bridge of friendship between Chinese and America.
The only way to truly change communist China is to act not on the basis of what Chinese leaders say, but how they behave. And you can see American policy responding to this conclusion. President Reagan said that he dealt with the Soviet Union on the basis of trust but verify. When it comes to the CCP, I say we must distrust and verify.
It is not surprising that the U.S. is taking a tougher approach on China, says the Rand Corporation's China expert Timothy Heath.
That there is a long-term trend that's been going on since President Bush, George Bush Jr., of a gradual hardening of America's position regarding China. And I think ultimately that derives from the reality that the gap in national power is narrowing, that there is a real competition going on.
Pompeo is asking other nations to also hold China accountable, but it may not be that simple.
A lot of countries are dependent, or at least rely a lot on trade with China. And so it's not going to be easy for many countries in the world to, so-called pick a side and join the U.S. in some of its harder line policies.
He says there is bipartisan support for a harder line on China, especially on specific issues such as intellectual property theft and China's approach to Hong Kong, which may be an indicator as to what will happen after the November presidential elections.
President candidate Joe Biden has voiced a very tough line on China, echoing, again, quite a bit of bipartisan concern about China. So I anticipate, regardless of who wins the election, there will be a lot of what you see from the Trump administration will continue.
The question remains to be seen whether this approach will be more successful than what was tried with other administrations. Elizabeth Lee, VOA News, Los Angeles.
This is AP News Minute. Demonstrators in Portland, Oregon fled from the U.S. courthouse amid flash grenades and gas early Friday. Demonstrators are protesting police brutality and the deployment of federal officers to Portland. China has told the United States to close its consulate in the western city of Chengdu. This comes days after the U.S. told China to shut down its Houston consulate. President Trump has dropped plans to have a Republican convention in Florida. He says that due to the coronavirus, it's not the right time to hold the event in Jacksonville. And Arizona's governor says the coronavirus may keep schools from opening at the same time. He says the state is developing guidelines to determine when schools should reopen. Mike Hempen, The Associated Press, with AP News Minute.
Hello, this is BBC World News. I'm David Eads with the headlines. Beijing has ordered the closure of the US consulate in the city of Chengdu just hours after the American Secretary of State said Washington was hardening its stance in its dealings with China. Turkey's iconic Hagia Sophia is reopening for Friday prayers for the first time since its controversial conversion from a museum back to a mosque. President Trump has cancelled the main gathering of the Republican National Convention in Florida in August. It follows a spike in coronavirus cases there. He said it wasn't right to hold a crowded event in a virus hotspot. And a new study has warned that unless there's a global effort to reduce plastic waste, 1.3 billion tonnes of it may be dumped on land and in the oceans over the course of the next 20 years. Those are the headlines on BBC World News.